Welcome to Sports in Courts. Today I'm here with AT, who is the NIL legal coordinator at XL Sports Management. AT, you recently graduated from Villanova Law, where you enrolled in the sports law concentration. How are you feeling today?
I feel good. I guess reflecting back on graduating and then being here, it's been a cool journey because I've been so pigeonholed in like sports. That's why I went to law school. That's what I did during law school, and it's a blessing to see it play out and work out this way and actually working in sports. So it's hard not to feel good.
Yeah. Okay. So my first question was, have you always wanted to be in sports and in the sports world? And when exactly did you know, like, yes, I'm going to do law school. This is what I want to do?
Yeah, so I mean, even from the beginning, I went to undergrad as a pre-physical therapy major. So I was in a program where I'd get my physical therapy degree in 6 years rather than the full 7. And my thought process there was, I'm gonna get my physical therapy degree, I'm gonna get my athletic training degree, and I'm gonna go be an athletic trainer for an NBA team. Like even when I was away from the law, it was still sports.
Yeah.
And then eventually that wasn't the right path for me. And I needed to find something different. I was between like sports management masters, and then I started reading about this thing called sports law. Wasn't really familiar with it. But ultimately for me, like every decision was a plan A, plan B. So if plan B had to come to fruition and I had to be a traditional lawyer, like I needed to make a salary coming out of whatever graduate program that I made. And being a lawyer wasn't a bad plan B. So, if that makes sense.
Luckily for you, your plan A worked. So while you were at Villanova Law, you also participated in many negotiation competitions and went on to win several. I read about you. And so is this something you advise students interested in the sports industry to take advantage of, like put an emphasis on negotiation competitions? And how has it helped your sports law career today?
Undoubtedly, yes. Depending on what you want to do, you should be more focused on it versus less focused on it. So the competitions that I did were at Tulane, focused on NBA and NFL contract negotiations, and there's trades thrown in there as well. So you familiarize yourself with the salary cap, familiarize yourself with rosters and roster fits, and what the long-term execution of that cap sheet was going to be for the team, and then from the agent side, understanding all portions of what goes into a contract. So for football stuff, understanding like how does a signing bonus prorate over the length of the contract? What is an option bonus? What happens if you, when do you want to guarantee the P5 salary versus when do you not want to guarantee them? And then for the basketball side, likely incentives, unlikely incentives, options, trade kickers. So you got to familiarize yourself with all that. And for me, I wanted to be on that side of the sports law field while I was in law school. And so I really dove into it and did my best with it. But I even think if you want to do something else still, negotiation is a skill that you just have to develop during law school. So no matter what you do, I think it's a great spot to put yourself in. For me, that was the best networking opportunity that I've had, because all these competitions, and Tulane Law School does a phenomenal job with them. They get judges from all across the industry. So like media and team side and agent side and people doing major podcasts. Like they have a really, really good roster of judges, and it's rare that you find a time where you can be in a room with, let's say, an NBA assistant general manager and someone who runs salary cap and someone who has like the 3rd biggest basketball podcast in the country. You can be in a room with them and showcase your knowledge for 45 minutes straight, right? It's more than an informational interview. It's like a here's what I do and I'm actively showing you. So I think for networking purposes and just to build your skill set, 100%, no doubt, get yourself involved.
Right. So I know before you left, you were also able to secure funding for future students to now compete in these negotiation competitions. What was your motivation behind that? You already did your competitions. You're good. So what was the motivation behind that?
Well, I'll say this. So my second year of law school, basketball is always my sport of focus. We just never participated in the basketball competition. So I did the football one my first year. And my second year, we only had funding for one team to go. That team, I was not chosen for that team, but in my head, I'm like, I have to go, right? And so somehow as a student, I got to find $600 for an entry fee for the competition, plus a hotel, plus flight tickets, right?
Right.
Cover everything myself and get that done. And I was able to do it. Luckily, I mean, obviously you have to stretch money to make it happen, but also not everyone's going to be in my position where they can make it happen, right? Everyone's finances are different. If that point comes to you and your money is tight and you are in a position where you just can't do it, then you can't do it, and that sucks because this is a such a unique opportunity. So for me and for the rest of Sports Law Society, it was really like, let's cement this as a legitimate thing, like moot court is, like trial team is. And it took a while. It took like almost the course of a year to get all our ducks in a row, and we made pitches to the Morad board of directors who oversees our Sports Law Society. We talked to the deans. We wrote like a 10-page memo of this is exactly why that we should be formalized and we should receive funding. And ultimately it worked. And then the kids that were a year under me, they've just helped on, keeping the money coming, making it grow. And it was really just a stepping stone that I did. I think if you look like 3 years from now, all the students right now, they're just going to continue to build off it and keep ramping it up.
You quite literally created a legacy at Villanova Law. So congrats.
I appreciate that. It's a group effort.
So, okay, great. So now post-grad, you're working at Excel Sports, one of the top sports agencies, and you're now NIL legal coordinator there. How did you go about securing a position at Excel Sports Management? Was it through networking? Was it through cold applying? What was your process like?
Yeah, I mean, this is a story in and of itself. I applied for a fellowship position with Excel, which was a 1-year rotational program. You rotate through 4 different divisions over the course of a year. And so after law school, I really viewed that as like, this is almost like a clerkship for me, right? This is an opportunity to get my foot in the door at a major agency, rotate through different departments and see all sides of the business of sports, which I hadn't seen through law school. Because in law school, when I was on the agency side, I worked for a year and a half in an agency. I was purely in basketball operations. Like that is all I did. But Excel with the rotational programs, like I can see different components of how this business works. So I went through that entire process. I got to the final round of that process. One part of that process was giving a 30-minute presentation. And there's a few options: give a recruit pitch, there's like one marketing thing, which obviously I don't really know much about. Then the last one was, what's a line of business that Excel should enter into? And this was like March 2021. And I gave a 30-minute spiel on NIL and why Excel should prepare and ramp up to open up a NIL division as soon as possible, because it's coming and it's going to be big, and it's the next necessary step in recruiting talent. So I ultimately did not get the fellowship position. That was like March 21. Then July 1st came around, NIL passed. I was studying for the bar at the time, and a few weeks after that, Excel called me back again, and they were like, hey, like they liked my presentation on NIL. They were like, do you have a job yet? I was like, I absolutely do not have a job. And they're like, yeah, I'm gonna connect you with their general counsel and we'll see where it goes. So I talked to her GC. We had a good conversation, and then they took a flyer on me, and I was the first NIL hire at Excel.
Wow, that's insane.
There's a lot of luck, a lot of lucky breaks.
I mean, luck, and clearly that presentation had to have some type of magic in it, because
I put a lot of work into it.
I mean, clearly you got the position.
Yeah.
So my follow-up question from that is, what exactly does an NIL legal coordinator do? Like, what does your day-to-day look like at Excel?
A lot of different things. Primarily, my job is to guide compliance, which means every single representation agreement that we sign, every single marketing agreement that we execute for our current clients, all has to be buttoned up. And I'm sure you know the legal landscape of NIL is very patchwork, state by state. If states have it, states have been amending laws like crazy to have increased flexibility recently. And then also different school policies, and not only school policies, but how are the different schools interpreting the exact same language? Because I'll tell you, they are all interpreting it different ways, right? There's there is no consistent groundwork in this landscape. And so it's really just me keeping a finger on the pulse, and making sure everything that we do is compliant and buttoned up. And a large piece of that is me building relationships with the compliance departments where we have athletes at, right? One of the blessings of Excel is we often have high level talent that our agents recruit. So it's easier for me to have those conversations with the compliance office, because I mean, you're talking about a star player on their team. They have as much incentive to be on his best interest as I do. So it's really just building that connection, building that relationship, and letting the process run smoothly, not having any hiccups. We're not going to jeopardize anyone's eligibility. And then as we've gone on, it's the same thing at the high school level with different high schools, trying to make NIL legal, and then talking to the high school athletic associations and seeing what we can do on that level as well. Besides that, I'm also brought into recruiting meetings. I don't recruit, but after the agents have a meeting set up, and then it's myself and my sales counterpart, who does a lot of the partnerships in NIL. We'll come on and we'll talk directly to the parents and to the athlete about NIL. But yeah, it's really a wide ranging thing, like managing the process, because every single deal we execute, right? Can you rent facilities? Some states have an outright ban on facilities rentals. If the brand wants to use school marks, what's the procedure for them to get there? Are we going to work with one team or work with Brandar for group licensing, right? There's a lot of context. It's hard to pinpoint what exactly my job is, besides keep the wheels moving and keep my nose to the ground with all things NIL.
Yeah. So obviously, like you said, NIL is like patchwork, and it's ever changing, and the laws and legislations are constantly changing. So even the athletes don't even know what they can or can't do. So what do you recommend for an individual who's interested in going into NIL? How can they prep to work in a position like yours? What's the necessary prep and work they need to do to ensure that they understand what's going on to the best of their abilities?
Yeah, I mean, I think for law students, it's a great opportunity, right? Like, I didn't have any NIL experience before I was hired because I couldn't. It didn't exist, right? It was all philosophical, legal, business. How is all this going to play out? But now that we're a year in, I think it's very obvious to brands, to schools, and to athletes themselves, and of course agencies, that this is really necessary. That there's too much of a money influx in college sports for the marketing deals not to be valuable. And I think we've seen a lot of high level brands come in and enter the space, whether that be like Gatorade or StockX or Mountain Dew, right? A bunch of major blue chip brands who have been, traditionally activating in sports are now activating in NIL. So I think as a law student, it's a combination of things. One, it's hard to get a in-house legal position straight out of law school, because if you hire in-house, they want someone with experience. They want to kind of plug you into the system, right? With NIL, much like compliance at the college level, it's almost JD preferred rather than traditional legal, because a lot of what my job is right, interpreting state laws and interpreting school policies and making arguments of this is why we should do this and we're allowed to do this, and then sticking to our guns and, just philosophically laying out what we can and can't do with NIL, and making sure all the agents are on the same page and following those rules and guiding the agency. But that's less traditional legal work. Like, I'm not redlining marketing contracts. I don't have a lot of experience in redlining agreements. I'm not doing that stuff. But I think as a student, it's like, especially if you focus in sports law, NIL is going to be occupied in your ethos over and over again. Right? It's a hot topic. It's going to continue to be a hot topic. So really just keep your nose to the ground, know the value of the JD that you're going to get. Like, it's a really valuable piece of paper. It has power in the hiring process. And this is a new and growing space that needs more attorneys and needs people with a legal background. So I would say stay plugged in. And then, as with all things, what you're doing right now, right? Create content, get your name out there, whether you're writing blogs or podcasts. I had a podcast myself when I was in law school.
Yes.
Yeah. Just keep on doing stuff to get your name out there. Because when people ask you, all right, well, what do you actually know about this? Well, here's 3 articles I've written. Well, right. Here's 4 podcasts that I've been on. right? Like there's a way to showcase your ability in the space real easy.
Okay, great. And then I always do a little insight question just to get to know the people I'm interviewing. So your question is, where would you want to live anywhere in the world? Ignore responsibilities, ignore reality, ignore work, everything that you can possibly think of, ignore. Where would it be and why? Got you there, huh?
Yeah, no, let me think about this for a second. It's definitely going to be coastal.
Okay.
It's going to be near a beach.
Okay.
I haven't traveled outside of the Middle East and India, so it's not going to be anywhere there.
Okay.
I feel like it would be like Sydney, Australia, like
Wow.
somewhere where I am just so unfamiliar with, and there's a million things going on where I can just really dive into the culture of that area, which I'm clueless about, and still have super nice weather and a beach. So I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
you
there
go
you
wrong.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, Sydney, Australia. Okay. I didn't think about that one. Okay, and then I guess my last question today is, what is your ultimate dream goal to achieve in the legal world of sports? What do you want AT to be known for?
Shit. There was actually one of my coworkers brought in some students from his undergrad last week, and there was like a panel of us, and they all asked us the same questions, like, what is your dream job? Like, where do you want to go? I just want to see where this thing goes. I don't know if I have like a fixated point of like, that's where I want to get to. This is what I want to do. I'm just kind of, I like the position I'm in. I'm blessed to be in the position I'm in. And I'm gonna keep working my ass off and see where this goes. I feel like there's not much to do at this point, right? It's really just keep on grinding and see where life takes me.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me on Sports in Court today. I'm really excited to see your journey unfold. So yeah, I'm tuned in.
I appreciate that.